on another level.
Hey guys, been wanting to do a breakdown video for this track for forever, so I'm really happy to finally be able to get to it. So of course the first thing I want to talk about is the lead sound. So it was originally like a loop of metal hits that I just sliced up into their individual hits and then sped them up to kind of create a really rough melody. What I did next was put a pitch shifter on it, and the important thing here is that the smoothness is turned all the way down, so it pretty much erases the transients the sound has. Gives it much a screechier sound, also pitched it up about 4 semitones. And then the next pitch shifter is shifting it down an octave, but the effect blend is only at 30%, so it's just adding a little bit of weight to the sound. Then just a couple reverbs, and then all the lead sounds are going to a bus where they're being EQ'd and compressed just a little bit. The EQ is being notched out to where the snare hits. The lows are being cut out to make room for the 808 bass. And there are 2 other variations in the lead. The second one comes in the bridge, and the only difference is that it's pitch shifted down 2 octaves, and the effect blend is at 100% on the second instance of AU pitch. And of course, there's automation on it, the wet and dry on the reverb, so it fades in and fades out. The third variation actually isn't really that different. It just has more plugins on it that give it a fatter sound, make it a little more interesting, a little more kind of whiny, screechy sounding. And those are the vocal transformer, a pitch shifter, zap by Sine Vibes, and then a ring shifter. Then these are all fairly subtle. The ring shifter is mostly dry, and same for zap. The vocal transformer though the mix is at 100%. So next we're going to look at the kick and the 808 bass. The kick is just 2 layers. You have the main kick and then a top layer of the kick that adds some high frequency content. Makes it sound a little bit more distorted as well. And then the kick, those 2 sounds go into a bus where there's an enveloper, OTT, another compressor, and then a bit crusher. So it's basically just being distorted and clipped more. The 808 sub is a patch I made in Massive, and that just looks like this. Very simple, not really much going on. It's distorted with the classic tube distortion in the effects, as well as clip and one of the insert effects. The bass is low passed and then sidechained to the kick with this compressor, and then clipped with this bit crusher. And that's really the entire sound for it. What makes it interesting in the first drop especially is the kind of bending up and down pattern, and I'm not actually using pitch bend. It's just notes placed an octave higher, and since Massive is in the monophonic mode, they glide up to each note. So that really creates a more interesting pattern than just having it straight be just one note at 1 octave. The 808 bass almost takes on like a lead role. It adds a lot of interest and variation to the track itself, just because the lead is a pretty repetitive loop, so other things have to change to make it more interesting. And the snare is all of these layers. The main snare sounds like this, and it's just accented by these weird little blippy sounds, as well as 2 different snares pitched up very high. They give it kind of like a flammy, weird hit to it. That's accented with this reverbed out kind of metal sound. And then in the second drop, the snare switches up a little bit. The pitch is lowered a little bit, and then this sound is added in. It's like a weird, like slowed down, warped glass breaking sound that sounds really cool and accented the snare very nicely. One of the most important groups of sound I actually think for this track is these impulse responses. And normally these are used in a convolution reverb to generate a certain reverb sound. But I really like the way they sounded on their own, just as their own audio files. They have a very like weird, like crispy kind of texture, very high-end heavy. They just sound like this by themselves. So it's pretty subtle, but it kind of does the same job that cymbals or hi-hats would do with adding brightness to a track, but it's a little bit different than that, and I think that makes it interesting, gives the track a different texture. And I kind of applied that same philosophy with the rest of this track. Like, instead of using traditional sounds, I kind of wanted to use something different, use something weird that would fit the aesthetic of the track. So there's a lot of weird Foley sounds. There's stuff I recorded in a garage. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about all of these sounds because it would get kind of repetitive. It's a lot of Foley that's kind of doing similar jobs to what I just talked about. But I do want to talk about a couple sounds that I really liked. One is this tire pump that I actually recorded. It almost sounds like a steam release or something. It adds a very cool like push and pull feel to the track. Also like very industrial and gritty sounding, which of course fits the nature of this track. And there are other sounds in here as well that fit that same atmosphere. There's a boiler hum sample. There's a lot of other like percussion. This is keys percussion. But yeah, all these sounds together kind of combine for this gritty metallic aesthetic, like you're in like an old industrial factory or some shit like that. And all together, these textures sound like this. These little boiler hums in the background as well. And some effects. For those of you that have watched any number of these track breakdowns I've done at this point, you know I do love to layer sounds. And I know I've said this before, but details like these I think are very important for building atmosphere and to make your tracks stand out. And of course they aren't always needed, especially in more minimal tracks. But in some tracks, they can enhance the feeling and add depth to a track that might be really uninteresting without these sounds. And that's actually all I really wanted to talk about with Bodied. It's a very straightforward track at its core. The lead is very simple and very repetitive, but everything else going on, changing in the track, makes it it makes it much more interesting to listen to, in my opinion. It's very easy to have too much stuff going on. After a certain point, if you have too many background sounds, it's just going to be really muddy and it's going to be hard to mix. And a lot of the details will get lost. Of course, that's definitely something I've had to be very careful with because I really like to layer sounds, sometimes too much. So I've kind of had to catch myself and not overproduce. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and also hope you enjoyed the latest EP I put out, Alteration EP. Funnily enough, Alteration was actually inspired when I did the track breakdown video of Disintegrate. And when I was doing the track breakdown for this video, I was actually inspired by the others like sound design techniques, especially the AU pitch, taking away the transience of a sound and giving a very screechy quality. I'm actually working on another track based off of that. So I really enjoy doing these videos, and sometimes I forget about techniques I've used and use them again to create new tracks. Also definitely plan on making more breakdown videos, of course, so let me know what track you would like me to break down next. And I know some of you have already requested tracks, but don't hesitate to ask again. I'm going to make a list of suggestions from now on so I don't lose track. I really appreciate all of your guys' support. I don't get tons of views or anything like that, but helping out even just a little bit or even just a few people keeps me motivated. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day.